people are rising, no more compromising.
So this implosion is a good thing. This implosion is showing that AIPAC is a dinosaur, that AIPAC is losing power, that AIPAC is out of touch with the sentiment of the vast majority of American people.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. The Struggle is shown on 22 cable stations from Vermont to New York City, on the internet at thestruggle.org. We begin in Washington, D.C. in a last-ditch protest of the Keystone XL pipeline. 400 young people calling themselves XL Dissent marched to the White House and handcuffed themselves to a White House gate. They had themselves arrested to dramatize the urgent need for the president to veto the Keystone XL climate-killing pipeline. Also in Washington, we visited a protest of AIPAC led by Code Pink and a parallel action of Orthodox Jews in the Natura Carta group. One of the leaders of Code Pink is Medea Benjamin. Hours after she spoke in Washington, she was on a plane to Cairo, Egypt, to try to join in a protest with 100 women, not of Egypt, but of the activities going on in the Gaza Strip. They never got there. When Medea was out of the plane, she was grabbed by Egyptian police, thrown in a jail, badly beaten, and then forced untreated on a plane to Turkey. Will broadcast a telephone call she did to Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! The next day. We conclude with mention of an article on our website about the latest Israeli atrocity.
Another world is possible. We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. We are unstoppable. Another world is possible.
Even in front of it, we're...
Whose streets? Our streets. 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 Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. Keystone Pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. Oh, oh. Keystone Pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. Oh, oh. Keystone Pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. Oh, oh. Keystone Pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. Oh, oh. Keystone Pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. Oh, oh. Keystone Pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. Oh, oh. Keystone Pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. Oh, oh. Keystone Pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. Oh, oh. Keystone Pipeline's got to go. Hey, hey. Oh, oh. This is what democracy looks like. 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 Tear down! The whole damn system! Tear down! Tear down! Tear down! No more compromising. The people are rising. No more compromising. The people are rising. No more compromising.
So first of all, I would like to acknowledge the traditional territories here that we're on. I'm a guest in this territory. My name is Jasmine Thomas. I am Yunkatane. Yankatane means people of the land. I'm a member of the Frog Clan, and we are stewards of the water. The Yankatane Alliance, which I'm here today to speak on, we are a coalition of 6 First Nations located in the heart of British Columbia, located along Enbridge's proposed tar sands pipeline route. So, I've made the journey here to stand and to speak with all of you here, and to let you know and to let the US press know what our people have been doing in our campaign against the tar sands for our fight for climate justice. We have been reaching out to citizens all over the world. We have been engaging with shareholders who are financing these companies, decision makers, to the United Nations. We've done a freedom train across the country of Canada and met with different communities along the way, and to do ceremonies for our water, because that is one of the big reasons why we're all here. Our water is sacred. It is what connects each and every one of us. It is the veins of our Mother Earth, and we must keep them clean. So the tar sands, largest man-made project on Earth. So big you could see these tailings ponds from space. They're trying to ram these destructive tar sands pipelines over the Rocky Mountains, through our territories, and to the Pacific Ocean, to reach markets here in the US and as well as Asia. But our leaders and thousands of Canadians and citizens all over the world stand with us and say they will stand in front of those bulldozers when they decide to come. I know many of you, just like myself, I will put my life on the line to protect our land, to protect our waters, and to protect this climate that we all depend on.
This is tar sand. This was recovered from the Kalamazoo River. This is a river I grew up 1 football field away from. This is a river we have chemicals in. Big word, sorry, small town guy. We know people who are hurt by tar sands. We know people who are no longer here because of tar sands in Kalamazoo. We have a river destroyed because of tar sands. Because of what happened in Kalamazoo, the largest inland oil spill in U.S. history. Because of the tar sand refineries that are happening in Detroit and Chicago. Because of Line 5 that threatens 20 to 30% of the entire world's fresh water supply. Because of this, people who tried to go through government, who tried to do and take every step they could, were turned away. So the people in Michigan started turning to each other. We formed the Michigan Coalition of Tar Sands. And last summer we started taking action for the community. One of our biggest actions last summer were 3 women that locked down. Let him yell. Vicki Hamlet became a great-grandmother on the beginning of the trial for them. Lisa Laggio became a grandmother February 6th. Barb Carter, whose lungs hurt when she left her building because she was 3 miles away from a refinery, had trouble breathing. These women locked up in a necessity defense to save the people of Michigan. On July 31st, they were found guilty. They're sitting in jail right now, even though they were out on bond, even though they were not a flight risk, they were incarcerated. They're sitting in jail until March 5th, where they could be sentenced up to 2 to 3 years for peaceful protest. Despite what could happen to them, they stood up to authority. What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Climate justice! When do we want it? Now! Here we go!
There were 6 speakers, 6 young people who spoke at Lafayette Park. To see all of their remarks, go to our website, click on the banner of the Keystone XL pipeline. Now to the protest of AIPAC. AIPAC stands for American Israel Public Affairs Committee, part of the Israel lobby that sees sanctions and war as the answer to everything.
Supporting negotiations, not war. Good morning.
Excuse me.
Maura, how did you get involved in this issue?
My husband is Palestinian, and because I'm Irish American and I also have some American Indian in me, I know what injustice is towards people and what occupation is and land theft. And I want the world to understand that the Palestinians are the current day American Indian and Irish Americans fighting.
Rabbi Feldman, why are you here today?
We are here today in front of the Washington, D.C. Convention Center during the AIPAC convention, and we say that AIPAC does not represent American Jewry. This is not the voice of the Jewish people. Neither Israel is the voice of all Jews. The state of Israel, to begin with, was opposed by the religious Jewish population in Palestine and in Europe, which was the main concentration of religious Jewish people. It happens to be that according to Judaism, the state of Israel is totally forbidden. We are in exile and we are forbidden to create a state of our own sovereignty. When it comes to this oppression against the Palestinian people, this is simply just adding crime to all what's happening, and this is totally wrong. This is a total crime. This is a crime against the people of Palestine. This is a crime against Judaism, which teaches us not to kill and not to steal. And
Policies. Let's give it up for Rama! Thank you, everyone. I want to thank everyone for being out here to make it clear to AIPAC that the policies they're pushing are policies that are wrong, and we will not stand down and accept them, but we're going to stand up and oppose their push and constant push for war against Iran and war on the Palestinian people. I also want
You know, we all know that Israel worries about delegitimation, right? That's the magic word of the day. You know what? They're right to be worried. They should be worried because Israeli violations of human rights and international law have delegitimized everything it once represented to some people. Other people are recognizing that this has been consistent since Israel's founding. Violations of international law are fundamental to the Israeli occupation and Israeli apartheid policies. And it's to stop the violations of international law that we support the Palestinian call for BDS and that we demand an end to U.S. military aid to Israel. Now, while we're seeing the implosion of AIPAC, why do I say implosion? Because they're supposed to go and send hundreds, if not thousands of people on Tuesday to lobby the government, and they don't know what to lobby about. They were going to go lobby to say, let's increase the sanctions on Iran. Except there are many people who are affiliated with the Democratic Party inside, and they say, I don't know, the president is saying that increasing sanctions would sabotage the talks with Iran, and they're telling us not to do it. Maybe we shouldn't do it. And then there are others who say, we can't listen to the president and to Kerry, we gotta push for the military option. We've got to make those talks fall apart. We've got to push the sanctions, hear the Iranian economy scream, and go for the nuclear option. So they're fighting among themselves right now to figure out what could be their position on Iran. Let's understand, AIPAC wants war with Iran. Right. And there are people within AIPAC who are saying, wait a minute, let's give the negotiations a chance. So this implosion is a good thing. This implosion is showing that AIPAC is a dinosaur, that AIPAC is losing power, that AIPAC is out of touch with the sentiment of the vast majority of American people. The American people want diplomacy to work. The American people don't want war. The American people look at Iraq and say, oh, AIPAC was one of those groups that pushed us into that war. How did that work out? On the other hand, they still have a lot of money, AIPAC and AIPAC's affiliated groups. And they give that money out to the Congress people to say, we want you to vote our way. And so you will see tomorrow, if anybody comes, lots of Congress critters streaming in here to say hello to AIPAC and want to show their face. And then they're going to want to run out as fast as they can, too, because they feel like they got to be there, but they really don't want to be there. So it's tough. You got to feel sorry for those Congress critters.
Yeah, right. No way.
So anyway, we are building up a movement. And Allie mentioned that some of us are leaving for Gaza, and I think we've got one woman right here. Let's call her up, Paki Whelan. And where is Crystal? Crystal, come forward with your camera. And where's Cayman? Did Cayman go to change because she was so cold?
That would be Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, okay. So we are part of a group of 100 women who are leaving this week, some of us right away like tonight, and we are meeting up in Cairo with women from 8 different countries, responding to a call by women in Gaza saying the situation is so bad there. We aren't getting electricity, we aren't getting our basic needs. The border between Israel and Gaza is very hard to get through, and the border between Gaza and Egypt is very hard to get through. So they are suffering. They said, we feel like the world is abandoning us. Come for International Women's Day, March 8th. So 100 women will be going to Cairo, where we will have to push very hard to get the Egyptian government to let us go through the Sinai, which has become very dangerous, and get into Gaza. So wish us luck. And we will send the message from the people here that say, lift the siege of Gaza, free Palestine. 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 Wall by wall, Israeli apartheid has to fall. Brick by brick, wall by wall, Israeli apartheid has to fall. Brick by brick, wall by wall, Israeli apartheid has to fall. Brick by brick, wall by wall, Israeli apartheid has to fall. Brick by brick, wall by wall, Israeli apartheid has to fall. Brick by brick, wall by wall, Israeli apartheid has to fall. Wall by wall, Israeli apartheid has to fall.
Within a day of her talk in Washington, D.C., Medea Benjamin was beaten in Egypt.
Okay, Medea, how are you?
Well, I'm in a lot of pain. I've gotten 2 shots of painkiller, but it's not enough. They fractured my arm, dislocated my shoulder, tore the ligaments. They jumped on top of me, and this was all never telling me what was the problem. And so it was a very brutal attack, and I'm in a lot of pain.
Explain what happened. You arrived at Cairo's airport, and you were attacked there?
No, I arrived at the airport. When I gave in my passport, I was taken aside, brought into a separate room where I was held for 7 hours without anybody ever telling me what was wrong. Then I was put into a jail cell in the airport expelled overnight. And in the morning, 5 very scary-looking men came in and wanted to take me away. And I said, the embassy is coming, the embassy is coming. They were supposed to have arrived. Instead, they dragged me out, tackled me to the ground, jumped on me, handcuffed my wrists so tight that they started bleeding, and then dislocated my shoulder, and then kept me like that, grabbing my arm the whole way. I was shouting through the airport, screaming in pain. Then I demanded to get medical attention. The Egyptian doctors came and said, this woman cannot travel. She's in too much pain. She needs to go to the hospital. The Egyptian security refused to take me to a hospital and threw me on the plane. Thank God there was an orthopedic surgeon on the plane who gave me another shot and put the arm back in its shoulder. But they were so brutal, and as I said, Amy, never saying why.
Did the U.S. Embassy, a representative, ever come to see you at the airport?
No, some of the delegates, including Ann Rice, who had already arrived for the Gaza delegation, had been calling the embassy nonstop. The Code Pink people in D.C. were calling the embassy nonstop. They were always saying they're supposed to show up, they're supposed to show up. They never showed up. I was on the tarmac. The Turkish airline was forced to take me, but we delayed an hour while they were debating what to do. There were about 20 men there, and the embassy never showed up the entire time.
And how long were you held at the U.S. Embassy that's supposed to protect U.S. citizens never showed up?
Well, I was held from 8:30 in the evening until the next day at about 11 a.m. As I said, we put in so many calls, and they even knew then when I was attacked and I was in excruciating pain and wanted their help to get to a hospital. They still didn't show up then, and so they were missing in action the entire time.
Medea, talk about what your intention was. Talk about why you were going to Gaza.
We had planned for March 8th, International Women's Day, to go on a 100-women delegation to Gaza to show our support for women who feel really abandoned. Since the upheavals in Egypt, the Rafah crossing between Egypt and in Gaza has been closed much of the time, and people are feeling very desperate in Gaza. So this was to highlight their situation. We had Nobel Peace Prize winner Mairead Maguire coming with us, heroine from the anti-colonial struggle in Algeria, very well known in the Arab world, and many other very well-known women. And I was one of the main organizers of the delegation.
And this meeting is taking place as Benjamin Netanyahu is in Washington, D.C., the Israeli Prime Minister meeting with President Obama. What were you calling for? What is Code Pink calling for?
Well, we have been calling for the lifting of the siege on Gaza. We've been calling, of course, for the stop of the settlements. We've been calling for basic human rights for Palestinians. In fact, we were out in front of AIPAC protesting during their policy conference on Sunday, and we've been very vocal in our support for the Palestinians and a call for Israel and now Egypt to open up those borders, and especially for Gaza, allow goods to come in and out so people can have more electricity and more of the goods that they need just to survive.
And now what is your intention now that where are you in Turkey?
I'm in a hospital in the airport right now. The doctors just gave me another shot. They're going to do an MRI on my shoulder, and they are going to continue with the deportation. There's not a plane until tomorrow, so I will be here overnight, and then I will be leaving tomorrow back to the U.S.
Well, all the best to you, Medea. I also want to let people know, of course, about the 4 Al Jazeera reporters who are currently being held in Egypt, 3 of whom have been charged with belonging to a terrorist group and spreading false news. Many thousands of activists are being held in Egypt right now.
What Medea went through is bad enough, but of course mild compared to what goes on in Egypt to Egyptian citizens and other Arabs. Very troubling is the fact that the U.S. State Department did nothing at all to help Medea Benjamin. All we hear from our government is security, security, security. But they didn't trouble themselves to secure one woman who they knew was in imminent peril. I'm going to put myself out on a limb here and wonder, maybe this was payback. Last May, Medea Benjamin embarrassed Obama when she interrupted his smooth patter about drones. Perhaps some underling of Obama decided that this would be a good thing to do, to talk to some Egyptian official and get payback. As we record this, we receive word that all 100 of the women who went to Egypt have been turned back, have not been allowed to go to Egypt, and have been deported. The Obama administration says nothing at all about any of this, and in fact is slowly restoring the $1.5 billion in weapons that it had suspended for a time in Egypt last year. Here's a sign at a protest in New Britain, Connecticut, outside a university where the president was speaking. Before I go, I want to talk to you about a must-read article on our website about the latest killing of a Palestinian by Israelis. It's called, "After They Killed Him, They Shot Him 62 Times." That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller, and this is The Struggle.